Hello friends, family and other creatures of the sea, and welcome back to a high-level best of 3 of StarCraft 2. Today in the bottom right, as our red Zerg player playing for Team Dragon Phoenix Gaming. It is dark. While in the top left on Grasven, playing for Team Liquid, in the blue trunks, we have Clem. Terran versus Zerg matchup here on this map. From the most recent Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. Both players have an interesting style, kind of a trademark style, I want to say, of Terran versus Zerg. Dark known to be slightly aggressive, I guess. Don't see any aggression here in the opener, but still likes to go for his roaches. Different types of openers than most other Zergs would go for. We've seen a lot of 1-1 roach timings. We've seen 1-1 Ling Bane timings out of him when his early game is very solid. We've seen a thing called the Cave Pop coming out of him, where he'll defend initially with roaches and then eventually transition into Hydra, Lurker, Viper, that type of playstyle. Clem, on the other hand, very distinct triple CC player, loves his Banshee openers, loves the Microdose Hellions, has periods in his life where he'll sacrifice the first 4 or the first 2 Hellions to try and get some drone kills, and at other times he'll be very safe and solid with them. Often transitioning into bio, well, always basically transitioning into bio, because that's really what Clem is. Very fast, quick. He's one of the speediest players in the world, in my opinion. Very solid in the offense, sometimes struggling to make things happen defensively though. Can make the incorrect reads and the incorrect calls as a response to those incorrect reads. 6 links coming out. It's a dark classic here. Rather than just opening with 4 links, he says, no, I want to open with 6 links. Make sure that I don't lose a single ling here against that Reaper. Give me the ability to save the creep tumor a little bit easier as well. The first tumor will get thrown down here by that queen. Second queen already on the way in the natural, and we indeed have a third CC here for Clem. See it build in the main base. Factory finishes up and immediately switches over. The wait is going to be on whether there will be a starport before the car start, and indeed there will be. No second gas. Okay, there we go. In the natural. And now the priority of the money will be SCVs and then Hellions. SCVs have to basically always be produced. Of course, not while the orbital's building, because that's not possible, but that's always where the priority is going to lay with a triple CC opener, and with majority of the Terran openers, I would say. Tech Lab coming down, and this is starting to feel a little bit like it is indeed going to be a triple CC Hellion Banshee opener. Really the most standard opener that Clem plays. It is very safe against roach all-ins in the early game. It allows you to go for earlier pressures as well, which is good. And we do see Dark opening up with a quick roach war. Now, this can be defensively because there is no link speed at all here. Dark is going to be defending these cars with roaches. And saving a little bit of money by cancelling the speed. I like that a lot here. 4 queens are already out and about. They're spreading the creep right now. As the third orbital command is about to finish morphing in. Don't have a tech lab quite yet on this barracks, which is a little bit confusing. Then again, life is confusing. Okay, there we go. Must have forgotten about that. Usually you build it the moment you can. Tends to be a little bit better. Wasn't the case quite yet over here. 7 roaches coming out. Now, I don't think these are purely defensive roaches. There might be a little bit of an attack coming in behind this. Right? This is an odd timing for just a random 7 roaches. Fort base is going down. Here come the queens pushing these Hellions away. Maybe this is a fake roach all-in, or maybe it's a real roach all-in, but I don't think it's quite going to work out. Second Banshee. On the way, we have extra gases coming down as well as a second factory. 4 gas before the barracks get built. That probably means that the barracks will never get built, as this is leaning towards MECH here. This is something we almost never see out of Clem. Clem, the biomaster, the past few years. The man that can snipe Banes faster than any other player. Moving away from his beloved Marine Force, and instead going into what seems to me like it's going to be some MECH. Gas 5 and 6 already being built here as well. These Banshees make their way across the map. These roaches are just waiting for the Banshees to get across the map. And the moment they are across the map, roaches will start moving in. Probably try to snipe a couple of these SCVs. It's an interesting play here. Not sure if it's a play that's going to end up working. We have more Overlords coming out. There's already 4 gases as well. This is an odd build order for Dark. Just focusing a lot on that gas, which he isn't using. 3 more gases coming down. Okay, so we had 3 gas earlier, not 4. My apologies for that. Here come the roaches. Start by killing one SCV here in the wall. And immediately Banshees start heading back home. More roaches are in production as these Hellions are getting pushed back still. First few SCVs are falling right now. Get a solid surround here. Mules can get back to work, of course. And as the Hellions come back home to save the day, 10 workers have gone down already. First Cyclone popping out right now. We have double Cyclone production with the MECH field accelerator on the way. We also have Hyperflight Rotors, I think they're called. Yeah, the Hyperflight Rotors. The Banshee speed upgrade, of course. Significantly increasing the speed of the Banshee. We have Infestation Pit coming out. Double Evos. Pneumatized Carapace. This is a weird build order coming out of Dark. Just a very specific type of counter saying, hey, I know you gotta move all of your Hellions and Banshees across the map. I'm just going to hide 4 roaches to the side and then go in towards your natural. I wonder what would have happened though if this was an actual Marine build and there was just 6-7 Marines there. All of a sudden these roaches don't do all that much and you invested quite a bit in them. Imagine this game with Dark not killing 10 workers. I mean, Clem would basically be so far in the lead. I don't see a way for Dark to come back. Even at this phase of the game, at this stage, after this opener, where the run-by did a lot of damage, don't really feel like Dark is necessarily super far ahead. He's gonna lose a queen, he's gonna lose a couple of workers here to these Speed Banshees. Speed Banshees taking a fair chunk of damage as well. Here come the Cyclones, looking for something. Not quite going to find it. Fort base is done for Dark, but it's only on 72 workers with a very slow rate of drone production. Behind this, 1 Cyclone gets cleared, 2nd Cyclone gets cleared, and perhaps a 3rd goes down as well. Sloppy control here out of Clem, losing 3 absolutely key units. Banshees were out of position, now coming back into the fight. Couple of roaches will end up dying, but the fact that 3 Cyclones just went down makes this push so much worse. This really is a snowbally composition, and if you can't snowball, then, well, life is just going to be a lot harder here. Pathogen Glands finishing up right now as Clem is being pushed back. If there were 7 Cyclones at this point, I actually think that Clem would have a pretty decent shot at just straight up killing his opponent here. Just these 3 more would have done so much in this scenario. Fort CC is on the way. That is interesting, of course. We also haven't... What is this? It's a spotting eBay. It is an eBay that doesn't want to survive. It's the one thing I do know. More and more Cyclones coming in here. As factory 5, 6... What is it? 6, 7, and 8 are coming down. Clem really just playing this like it's bio. You know, the 5 factory into triple CC into 8 factory. No upgrades yet. Of course, Cyclones don't really require upgrades. I wonder what upgrades you're going for if you do want them. Like, what is the key here? Is my question. Ooh, that was not a cancel there on that base. These queens are in a little bit of trouble as well. Infestors looking for some damage coming from the side. And with this type of composition, there's one thing that I think it would be really cool is that after getting 5 Banshees, is maybe adding in a Raven to deal with this type of play. Seems like an absolute no-brainer here. You already have that starport on the tech lab. Clem now actually kind of getting beaten by those infestors, losing a lot of Banshees, and not just the Banshees, also just losing a decent chunk of Cyclones and Hellions once again, as these fungals do hit and slow everything down a chunk. Clem stuck on 68 workers right now. Still continuing on into more and more Cyclones, as Dark is setting up for what seems to me like a bit of a late game. Has these more infestors coming out, Hydra Den, we have a Hive as well. Of course, the double upgrades are still, well, will hopefully come back soon. These roaches get blasted, 1 stays alive, just barely. I really think that adding a Raven here into this composition would be fantastic. And these roaches are gonna get caught eventually. Oh, Clem notices that they went for the cheeky burro. 1 more Cyclone might end up dying, but maybe not even. Good pickup there for Clem, and despite some okay fights here for Dark, it feels like that the last minute or so has been a lot worse for him. Yes, the Banshee count has been greatly diminished. Should have been at 7 at this point. Oh, Clem not paying attention. Burrow the Roach is underground, taking out loads of Cyclones with the initial 1 Burrow here. Banshees though, however, actually adding in a decent chunk of damage output. That's absolutely crazy. The fun thing is that people don't really think of Banshees as units with this massive damage output, but I think a Banshee has like the damage, the DPS of 3 Marines or something like that, or 2.8 Marines. And Marines have a lot of damage output. Usually you just don't see it because they have to run back. But if it's basically just 3 Marines standing still and constantly firing, that's how powerful a Banshee is. So if you have like 7 or 6 Banshees just floating above an army and they don't have to be microed back, they're just consistently shooting, that's a crap ton of damage output that we're talking about. I really think it's an underrated composition or underrated unit as a damage dealer. Of course, we see it a lot as a harassment unit, but as a real just damage dealer for the brute force DPS, the pure DPS, it has some value. Tanks are being added in as well as ghosts, so it seems that the plan is to, as long as there is potential to trade properly, if you play, what is it, like Hellion, Cyclone, Banshee, I guess, and then the moment it feels like the late game approaches, you just transition into Ghost. And you have such a clean Ghost transition here as well. The one thing that you are going to be lacking is the upgrade, of course. Armories are just now starting. It means that Hellbats before this weren't even possible, which is kind of wild. Lurker Den also on the way here. And we have another Ghost in production. Gonna make that a total of 4 already. Lurker Den halfway done. Baneling Nest on the way. Still no Link Speed. No, actually Link Speed has finished up. Sometimes you see that Adrenal Glands finishes before Link Speed. That isn't the case here. This is not a fight that Dark can take, by the way. Absolutely not. Resources lost heavily favoring Clem here. Despite having a very active early game. Still wouldn't mind seeing like a bit of a split. Maybe 5-6 Cyclones towards the top side with a bunch of Hellions. And then the main army just going towards the bottom. There's not all that much creep, which is interesting to think about. Neural Parasite is on the way, and we also see a Spire being thrown down here. Gases 9 and 10 are being saturated soon for Dark. Who's starting to build a little bit of a bank. Of course, not the end of the world if Zerg gets a bit of a bank. Fairly normal. Odd composition though, this is difficult to control as well. Baneling Hydra, Infestor Viper. That's not an army that you just move in with a good pre-spread. And every unit has a very specific purpose and needs to basically be kind of controlled individually in order to get the maximum damage output from it or the maximum use out of that unit. These roaches are burrowed once again. Tunneling Claws being used rather effectively so far this game. And Dark happy with it is going to continue going on. Oh, there come a couple of snipes perhaps on these Hydras. No, not quite yet. These roaches could be used as a flank as well, now that I think about it. Another scan going down. Cyclone's trying to move forward. Roaches move in towards his planetary. Do we have enough repair output? I think there is actually enough repair here. Yeah, this planetary is not going to go down. One scan is going to completely destroy these roaches. It's obvious there's going to be one more burrow. Yep, there we go. Roaches could walk out of the circle and try to burrow again. That's not what they're going to end up doing. And the resources lost remains favorable here for Clem. Loving the +1 upgrade here on the infantry weapons. Often you actually see the armor upgrade being researched before the infantry weapons. Once you see a mech type of composition. And the reason for that is because the only infantry... Oh, hold that thought as we have a bit of a fight here. Neural Parasite has been finished already. That means that neurals are possible. We're not quite seeing them yet. Perhaps on this tank. No, tank is just going to get taken out instead. Decentish fight for Dark. What I was going to say is that, well, actually, hold that thought for another second. As Dark continues fighting, perhaps for a bit too long, loses a bunch of supply. Now Clem's turn to go across the map. Does not want to get hit by a fungal here, though. That's very important. So, what I was going to say is that often we see the infantry armor over the weapons, because the main damage output of the Ghost is not its auto attack, but the snipe ability, and keeping it alive for longer against things like Lynx and Hydras might actually be more valuable than having it do slightly more damage with its auto attack. So if there's only a single eBay, we often see just the infantry armor initially. This is something that a lot of the Korean Terrans especially do, from what I've seen. Maru, Ryung. Is there any other... I guess Dream played some mech back in the day. Not sure if he still actually plays the game or if he still plays mech as well. Seems like Clem just built 2 eBays, so he's just gonna get both upgrades at the same time. Also a cool concept, of course. 5th and 6th are finished at this point, and we have a bunch of extra orbital commands as well. This late game situation is looking pretty darn good for Clem. So we have a massive drop, potentially heading towards the main base of the Terran player. 6 Overlords here, and that's going to be pure Ling. It's interesting to see. 3 Thors are being produced, so the Broodlord switch is being anticipated right now. Dark always feels so oddly comfortable in these late game scenarios, where other Zergs, you know, they struggle with it. Dark always just feels like once he gets to the late game, he just doesn't really lose these games anymore. Despite it not looking like a brilliant game base-wise. Okay, here we go. Big drop heading into the main. One of these Overlords going to get taken out without dropping a single Ling here. And that means we're going to see 16, no, make that 17 Lings in the main base. Adrenal Gland's not quite done yet. Melee attack level 3 is about to finish up as these brutes are also pushing forward. No Thors here to defend. That means that a lot of these tanks are going to end up falling. A couple of scans forward out of Clem, sees what the army is like and says, I don't think I can actually attack into this. Still gonna try to snipe some of these Hydras, some of these Banes. Broodlords continue moving forward. Need to be careful. Cloak is here, of course. And that could allow these ghosts to maybe snipe some of these Overseers and then take it from there. There we go, Overseers being taken out. That means there's no more detection right now. And if you get every single Infestor down to 0 energy, Cloak is going to be way too good. There's no Cloak being used quite yet, but it is a possibility here. Couple of snipes in the chase here. Scan forward would be huge. But instead, Clem just losing a lot of Ghost. Good control out of Dark here. He's trying to kite with these brutes. 22 workers have gone down. The Lings in the main base still going ham as triple Thors have dealt with it, but are now running away once more. And this production is being completely assaulted. Finally, we see the Cloak on these Ghosts, but I'm not so sure if this fight was actually worth it for Clem. Resources lost in favor of Dark for the first time, and that is usually not a very good sign. 23 SCVs going down. Money is tight for our French Terran player, who is so far not really trying to expand towards a 7th base. I mean, there's a command center here ready. Is instead just going to turn into an orbital. So we have a couple of tanks on the high ground and a lot of Thors in the back. I don't think Hydra Bane can really burst this bubble, can it? Well, maybe it can actually, as these Banes are moving forward, trying to connect with the Thors. Hydra still dealing damage, couple of snipes coming down. Resource loss still about even at this point. Vehicle weapons level 2 about to finish up, and that's going to definitely help Clem out in the future. As despite him playing mech, we actually saw faster 2-2 for the infantry, so for the bio, than we saw 2-2 for the mech. It's kind of interesting. Something you don't see every day, but I guess it's going to be more common. This Hellion Cyclone Banshee style is something that I've heard a lot of talk about, and I've seen not so much of, but I know a lot of Zergs do kind of struggle with that. So yeah, it's interesting. Interesting to see where it brought Clem, despite what felt like a relatively poor early game, right? Roaches coming in, killing workers, then losing the first 3 Cyclones basically for free, all of that stuff. Really felt like it could have gone a whole lot better, but it didn't. Bottom base now being taken here for Dark, or at least that seems to be the plan. Of course, at the end of the day in these split map scenarios, often the thing that matters the most is the income over the game, over the course of the game. Did you manage to mine any of your opponent's bases? And I'm having a hard time seeing Dark actually mine any of his opponent's bases. What would that look like? Maybe Dark taking this one? Seems so hard. It's so close. Dark taking this one also is close to impossible. If Clem gets to stabilize and gets into that late game, usually Terran ends up trading better than the Zerg. Dark is one of the players that actually sometimes trades better, but it's still rare to see. Okay, here we go. Can he get any abducts off? No, he can't. Snipe does miss as the Vipers fly outside of the least range of Snipe. Aliens stay alive. Good control out of Clem once more. It's just those small things, you know, just slightly, ever so slightly moving these Aliens back. As a bunch of SCVs gonna get taken out, and the Planetary also gets blown the heck up. Luckily, there's already a new orbital command, which can take its place. It's always someone to replace the previous command center here. Seismic Spy on the way. This is a massive amount of Hydras, by the way. Massive amount of Hydras. 31, 5 Infestors, and 3 Vipers. Wow. That is significant. Do we have 2? Yeah, I was gonna say, we have 2 Lurker Dens here. I saw both upgrades. Our Adaptive Talents finished like 5 seconds ago. Then Seismic Spines is also on the way. It's like, well... 2 Lurker Dens. And a Nidus Worm as well. 57 Banes right now. This is one hell of an army here that Dark has constructed. 57 Banes, 31 Hydras, 5 Infestors, and 3 Vipers. Army value higher than Clem's. Let's see what he can do with this. If he can hit any of these fungals, that would be absolutely huge. Can we get any? Couple of EMPs going down. Big Blinding Clouds as well. One fungal going to connect with a bunch of ghosts as another Blinding Cloud gets thrown down somewhere. And this felt like an okay fight here. No, a very good fight actually for Dark. He's gonna completely clean this up. Has a bunch of Hydras in production still. No more Overseers to help out. That is going to be frustrating. No more fungals either to help out with detection. As one of these ghosts most likely is gonna, well, barely going to survive. A couple of Medivacs definitely wouldn't hurt. And another thing that wouldn't hurt here for Clem is maybe moving back a bit and standing in a defensive posture. Needs to continuously build tanks, ghosts, Hellions in order to survive. And now we have a tech switch coming out of Dark, who's constructing 5 Overseers. And wait, how many? 8 Lurkers plus 12, so that's 20 Lurkers total. Nidus goes up in towards the main base. Let's take a look at the first person here for Clem, who's not ready for that. Needs to make Hellbats here to deal with this Nidus. Needs to get those tanks in position. Will get the Nidus before it pops anything of importance out. And is going to return back home most likely, or back towards the front. Here come the Lurkers, and I don't think that Clem was completely in position for this. Too late with the scan as 2 Lurkers got taken out before the fight. But there's still 15 Lurkers remaining. Ghost in trouble. This base in a little bit of trouble. 150 supply against 185. Huge Link Bane run by heading in towards the main, into the natural. And this isn't looking all that hot right now for our French Terran player. But if he manages to survive, Dark actually invested a lot of energy and a lot of resources into this. The question is though, how is Clem going to survive? Already losing 22 workers. Down in eco. This just seems like a very bad day here for Clem. A very, very bad day. And I don't really see a way to make this day any better for him. Which is an issue, of course. Okay, big scan. He's gonna get maybe one more Lurker. He's just under attack absolutely everywhere. Lynx, yeah. GG gets called. Dark wins game number 1 in this best of 3 and puts himself on match point. Game number 2 on Neo Humanity. One of these maps where you look at it and you think to yourself, what's up with it? You have 3, 4 easy bases. There's a base with a rich Vespine Geyser, which usually is favorable for Zerg players. But in general, this map is a Terran's paradise. I think that can be said. Lots of nice little defensive positions. Great attacks possible as well over here. I think Mura is the most played unit, just purely due to that the rich Vespine Geyser over here, which allows you to get a lot of gas pretty quickly on your 5th base if you want to take this as your 5th. But yeah, there's a lot of good attack paths for Terran. You have interesting tank positions everywhere, and it can be quite difficult. Rocks in the middle of the map, of course, as well, which can be thrown down. I think they're called cooling towers, actually, not rocks. Let me see, is that correct? Yeah, cooling towers, and yeah, they can be broken down, and they'll create some obstacles to get through the middle. These rocks can be destroyed as well, so there's lots of options to open and to close certain attack paths. Once again, Clem opening up with a very standard SCV scout with that Reaper as well. So pretty much the Clem standard opener. I wonder if he's going to follow this up with Bio, or if his plan once again is going to be MECH. I think this map is a little bit worse for the Cyclone MECH that he played last game. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's awful, just think that it's slightly worse. And knowing how good he is with Bio, it almost feels like a waste to play MECH on such a good Bio map. But then again, I could be wrong about that. Of course, these players have prepared a lot for this tournament. They know what they're supposed to be doing. And what they want to be doing. Factory on the way here. Third CC has not started yet, but here we go, as always. This is really just the Clem standard. Reaper gets a single kill. It's more than you'd usually expect against 6 links. Don't forget, if the Zerg opens up with 6 links, you're basically up a drone already as a Terran, because, well, they have 1 less drone and 1 more set of links. That means they're losing some mining. Usually Zergs only get 4 links, and they'll defend with that instead. 4th queen coming in already as well. This is some very fast queens, by the way. All of this before this Overlord. Wow. That's actually really quick. A lot of money being invested into that. Into those early queens. I think that's slightly different from what I've seen so far in this matchup. Could be wrong. Creep tumor moving towards the top. Huh. So that kind of makes me believe here that Dark wants to take this as his 4th, I guess? And wants to get that creep out as quickly as possible, rather than heading for this base as a 4th. I could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see how he's going to approach this scenario. Of course, there's rocks back here. I'm not quite sure what these rocks really do. Because what's the point of these rocks? And what's the point in taking them out? No one knows. Except perhaps the map maker. This is such an easy map for Zerg to defend, by the way. Like, you spread the creep tumors a little bit further forward, and all of a sudden these rotations with the Hellions are practically impossible. You need like, what, 2-3 creep tumors and you're good. It's not going to be a Banshee this time, but instead it will be a Viking. 4 Hellion into Viking. Yes, there we go. Very quick barracks as a follow-up. We see Stim already, well, 25% done as well. New reactor is on the way as the 30C finishes up. This Overlord is going to get taken out, and it's important for this OV to actually spot the barracks going down. Well, I'm not so sure if it saw that, did it? It didn't quite see the barracks. Of course, it see this in a weird position. This is a tech lab, not a reactor. I thought it was going to be a tech lab. Instead, we have the reactor being built here. Oh, of course, on the starport. And then you swap these two. You can start early tank production as well. I like the way that Clem is playing this quick Rose Warren once again for Dark. This time, though, I do believe that we have link speed. And indeed, we do. Starport's going to make its way over just slightly above this command center. As we have barracks 4 and 5 on the way practically immediately. I love this build order here out of Clem. It's going to allow him to get fast upgrades. Get a lot of Marines out. Still have a little bit of harassment, of course. Viking is going to be helpful there as well. Taking out 1 Overlord already and also pushing the other Overlords back. This Link comes in, coming in for a scout. Gets to see basically everything. Knows that the response here is going to be tanks rather than mines initially. Something we should... Excuse me? That's at 225 minerals that he just lost for no reason by accidentally scanning his own main base. I think what happened here is that he probably tried to select this tech lab and press the C for combat shield, but instead pressed the C for scanner sweep. That is really expensive though. This is the type of stuff that just delays your 4th command center by quite a bit. Or doesn't allow you to... Ooh, here we go. Doesn't allow you to scan for these creep tumors. Fairly frustrating there for Clem. He's going to be hitting himself in the head for a little bit. Roaches are being pumped out here. So it's going to be 1-1 roaches, a strategy I've discussed earlier. This is not 1-1 roach for a timing attack. This is 1-1 roach for a defensive setup. It's just straight up 8 gas. And if you're going for a 1-1 roach timing attack, usually you're working off of 4 gases. Drones trying to get some kills here. 4 drones do end up falling. 6 drones go down total. Still only 67 workers. Feels like the first 2 medevacs should be out and about already. And perhaps heading across the map. It's not quite the case yet. 1-1 finishing up soon. Combat shield finishing up soon. This is going to be one hell of a timing attack. That is what I do know for sure. I guess if he wants to attack, that is, of course. Because the question now that I have is, does Clem actually want to move out? Or is he just going to sit here defensively and go for a longer late game? 4th command center into an orbital. Get those 2-2 upgrades. Armory actually a little bit delayed for no reason. That is sloppy. That is very sloppy. 8 Marines being popped out here as well. As this Viking lands and we'll take out the Link. Yeah, we'll get it. 4CC on the way, 7 minutes, 20 seconds into the game. And we have a 6 refinery coming down as well. So with the armory finishing up, 2-2 should start. We have a baling nest on the way. So this isn't just a roach into Hydra, into Lurkeren type of play. This is more Ravager, Ling, Bane type of style. So I'm expecting Carapace +2 and Melee level 1 as the next 2 upgrades here for Dark. 1 macro hatcher in the main. Pretty much a Dark specialty. Take a look at how he's gonna take this fight here. Bailing speed on the way. Yep. We see melee. Oh, no, actually melee and range rather than Carapace. Interesting. A lot of Zergs tell me that Carapace is the preferred upgrade here. Ah, Clem with a misread. Clem with a significant misread. I am not so sure how he's misreading this. This is a huge mistake. This is a massive error of judgment here out of Clem. He scouted this army and thought he was still being 1-1 roach, but he's already seen the 8 gases. He knows that there's gases here. He knows there are gases here. Building 3 bunkers at this point seems useless. You don't need it, and it's actually delaying his barracks 6, 7, and 8 by a decent amount of time. We don't have vehicle weapons level 1 coming in yet either. This was a mistake. This was actually a mistake. Complete misread here out of Clem. Would love to see another orbital being built here, by the way, rather than a planetary. It is going to be planetary. This feels like the type of position that you can never truly break as a Zerg. What I mean by that is that, yes, you can maybe kill the planetary, but you can never continue pushing on because the tank line can basically go way too far back. So even if you clear the planetary, doesn't necessarily mean you're getting a good trade. So if you get an orbital here, you can just lift the orbital. You're not even going to lose the planetary. I think that's often good for Terran players. Terran players are so used to blindly getting a planetary on their fort that they sometimes forget about the vulnerability of the base. Like, what is the most vulnerable thing about it? This is not a lone base. This is a base that's always going to be defended by tanks. And in a lot of cases, I actually think that having an orbital there is better. One of the players that does think a lot about it is Beyond. We often see him with orbitals on the first 5 bases even. And it really boosts your economy, of course. Don't forget about that. An orbital command basically gives you another 200 minerals a minute extra. And especially in the early phases of the early late game or the late mid game, that can be kind of huge. Really snowballs. This is a good pushing pattern, by the way. This is a great pushing pattern. Wonder if killing those rocks here would have been good or not. 2 big blinding clouds, 3, 4 big blinding clouds here. I mean, a bunch of these tanks are going to end up falling, and this wasn't the greatest control out of Clem. Not the greatest tank split either. All these tanks are going to be reset right now. Well, not all of them. We still have a couple in the back. 2 tanks in the back as more banelings to connect. 4 ultras are on the way as well, and this is the issue with the barracks being so delayed. It means that your first marauders are going to be delayed as well. And imagine there were 6 marauders in this push. That definitely could have changed the outcome a little bit, and also would have helped against the ultralisk follow-up. Now there's going to be 4 ultras out, while there's only 6 marauders on the field. 3-3 has started. Ghost Academy should be going down soon as well. Wouldn't mind seeing a drop heading towards the far right side to deny any of these high ground bases, and maybe even deny a little bit of this creep here. Feels like Clem should be having such good fights with the positions that he can take. I'm loving the Liberator add-in. Liberators often are bad on very open maps, but because Neo-Humanity is such kind of a closed off one direction type of attacking map for the Zerg, I think Liberators are going to be capable of really putting in a lot of work, a lot more than they usually could. This is a good drop that I really do approve of. And I wish, rather than moving back home, it would just continue going on towards that far right side. We have a lot of tanks actually just completely rotating, completely switching direction here. A bunch of these Banes are going to end up falling. Every single Bane, basically, except for 4. Stim forward comes in, and here we go. Tank sieging up. Maybe a little bit too far forward. It's going to be a good fight here for Clem. I think it might just be tanks in the back, blinding cloud, no energy available for that. As there's not enough marauders to deal with these ultras, and the ultras come in, will clear a lot of these tanks. Now moving forward, taking out a bunch of these marines as well. Dark still believes that he can continue pushing on as the Ravager Biles are going to connect with the Liberators and will take it out. Tanks still going down as well. Now of course these ultras eventually will fall, but these were some pretty okay trades here for Dark. And once again, for the second time in this best of 3, Dark with a very, very close resources lost step here. Biles connecting with his army again and again and again. Clem just walking through it, not microing like we know that he can do. As 6 Ultras are popping out soon. We have Viper suckling the energy of the main base here. These 2 Vipers have stayed alive the entire time and are honestly responsible for the good fights that Dark has been taking so far. Dark expanding towards the top as well as towards the bottom and kind of containing his opponent here on the mere 5 bases that Clem has. There's an orbital over here, there's a planetary in the bottom right. But I'm not so sure how vulnerable any of these bases really are. It feels like the only time Clem is vulnerable is when he attacks into his opponent. Planetary now is going to be a little bit useful here. There's not enough tanks though with this army. Where's the rest of Clem's army? I don't quite understand. Feels like there should have been so much more. He has a lot of supply, but where is it? This planetary will end up falling. Orbital can just move over, of course, and is indeed just going to end up doing that. Sensor tower still alive. 2 tanks, 3 liberators. Not all that many ghosts. I think going for a counterattack here might be a mistake. This is a little bit optimistic. This is way too optimistic here. Clem thinking that he completely destroyed his opponent, but this was not that big of a win, Clem. You have, what, 2 medevacs remaining, not a lot of siege units. Don't think this push was viable. Now Dark is going to continue moving forward. Snipes will take out that 1 Ultralisk, and that is good, but felt like a small overextension there coming out of Clem. Tanks in the back, once again dealing a lot of damage. Snipes will connect with the Ultra as Banelings and Lynx take out more and more SCVs. Clem in economic trouble here. I think that is going to be our main focus. Is just the fact that he's not mining enough. The fact that Dark is mining a crap ton and can continuously throw armies away, basically. Last few trades have probably been slightly more favored for Clem. We see he's pulling ahead by about 2,500 in the resources lost. Still not massive. Once again going for a counterattack. I think he's being over-aggressive here. Why are we not just sitting back and trying to set up a bit of a defense right now? Definitely would be the preferred approach in this case, in my mind. This tank is so far forward as well. No tank in the far back. We have single tank production only. Would love to see double tank production, more and more liberators, as well as maybe just increasing the ghost and marauder count. Yeah, that seems to be the correct call here. Rich Vespine guys are being taken as well, as Dark is once again maxed out and probably will send it immediately as well. Are these still the initial Vipers? Yes, not a single Viper has gone down yet. They were once again suckling energy from somewhere. Liberator harass over here on the far right. There's no real anti-air except the queens. So patience is a necessity here. Here comes our good friend Dark once more pushing into this. Parasitic Bomb gets thrown down on these Liberators. Blinding Cloud on the tanks. And the army gets pushed back. But this feels like it could be a pretty okay fight here for Clem. Going to take out a lot of these Ultras. Taking out basically everything. Not losing all that much. Plus 2k fight here for Clem. The question isn't whether these fights are going to be good for Clem. It's whether Clem can remax quick enough to stop the next remax of Dark. And the answer so far seems to be yes. As long as Clem just sits back and takes these waves of Ultras on the chin time after time, I don't actually think there's much of an issue. I don't understand why Clem feels the need to continuously push out. I do love a move like this. Just going for a snipe on the side. You need to be so careful, because if you lose these units, all of a sudden you become more vulnerable in your main area, basically. There's a lot of tanks here that aren't sieged up yet. We do have 2 more Liberators on the way as well, as Clem once again deciding to push out with just a bunch of ghosts, and that is going to be it. Scary moment here for our French Terran player. We have another attack most likely coming in from Dark. This time with Infestors. Is there Buro? Yes, there is Buro. There's no Neural Parasite. 20 SCVs just went down. I have no clue how that happened or where that happened. It must have been a Baneling run by somewhere. And actually, what? Was that here, or? I have no clue what just kicked off. Maybe Clem tried to get rid of them by himself. Also a possibility. We have a Nidus network on the way. Last game, of course, once that Nidus came out, the game kind of ended. Not because of the Nidus, but because of the Lurkers. Here we go, another big attack. Liberators not in position. Are there even any Liberators? Yes, there are 2, but they weren't here quite yet. Foundals are missing. Tanks are shooting, shelling away. There's not a lot of big units that you can snipe on the retreat, and I think that is going to be Well, kind of nice for Dark. Otherwise, he would have lost a lot here in the retreat. If there's like 3 more Ultras you can snipe down as you're running away, that's probably good. Ultras here attacking this base will clear a bunch of the SCVs, but also loses a lot of Ultras. Orbital command count, if it's under 5, would be bad. Yeah, I think even just 5 is not good. Imagine you have like 9, 10 orbital commands here, then having 48 SCVs isn't so bad. But in this case, it is really quite bad. As once again, Clem pushing forward. I don't think he can quite get away with it. Tank gets taken out. Still a lot of cash in the bank here for Dark. 1100 minerals, 400 gas. Here goes Clem once more. 82 army supply against 107. 4 Ultralisk are in production. Nidus network gets built in the main base. Let's take a look at the first person here out of Clem. He's quickly looking around, goes in for a scan, but isn't seeing the Nidus network yet. That might be an issue later on over here. Uh-oh, here's the sound of the Nidus. Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the Nidus. As links are popping out at a high pace. Ultras can enter as well, of course, and come out a lot stronger these days in the main base. Clem believes that he can deal with it with his reinforcements, but I'm not so sure about that. More and more links coming in. The only thing missing right now is anti-air in the main base for Dark. Otherwise, he's just going to straight up kill Clem here. And even without anti-air, I'm not sure if just one lone Liberator is going to be good enough. More and more of these links are being taken out. Tank is staying in the circle. That is good. Clem, meanwhile, pushing forward with Ghost, Tank, Liberator. We'll get a lot of these drones, actually. There's a lot of cash in the bank for Dark, but no, it doesn't quite have the larva available. No injects are being used either. Where's the queens? There's only 1 queen remaining. This game all of a sudden feels like... Well, Clem still needs to win a fight somewhere, but... it might actually be doable here. Lots of workers are being taken out. As long as the orbital commands stay alive, eventually Clem is going to be capable of probably stabilizing. More links going down in the main base. This Liberator with 40 kills. All of them links. That's look at this. What? 44 kills here. GG gets called. Clem doesn't feel it anymore. Almost felt like he could have made a defense there, but I guess not quite. Dark wins the game, wins the series. And that, my dear friends, is going to be it for me today. Thanks all so much for watching. Hope you did enjoy this series. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see all of you next time for a new one. Thanks so much, and bye-bye.